Come on, how we doing? Hey, it's the last weekend of 2024 and you made it to church. Come on, put your hands together for yourself. Hey, there's no better place that you could be. Like, we made it. We made it to the finish line of 2024. Hey, you can go ahead and be seated. As you're being seated, come on, find somebody. Just give them a high five. Give them a high five and tell them, hey, you made it. You made it. Now, I want you to look at your second choice. Give them a high five and just be like, hey, you made it. We made it. We made it to the end of the year. We made it to the finish line of 2024. Hey, let me just introduce myself really quickly if I have not had the pleasure of meeting you already. My name is Dusty. I am one of the pastors here at this amazing church, and I just have the honor of just sharing my heart with you just for a little bit today. And I first just want to start off by just saying, hey, I hope everybody had a great Christmas. Come on, anybody have a good Christmas? Yeah. All right, half the crowd. Cool. Hey, listen, I love Christmas. Like, I love Christmas so much. Christmas is really my favorite time of the year. It's always been that way ever since I was a kid. Like, I feel like once the summer gets here and it's past, like, I'm already looking forward to Christmas. I'm ready. It's like just the kid inside of me. But especially since I've had kids, it's just that much more special. And we created just new traditions with my family, with my kids, with my boys. And I just love it. I love it so much. I love everything about it. But I was telling somebody the other day, it's interesting to me because as much as I love Christmas, by the time it gets here and it's over, like, I'm ready to turn the page. Y'all know what I'm saying? Like, am I the only one? Like, I'm not trying to be like a Scrooge or anything. I just like I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to turn the page. I'm already kind of looking ahead. I think because I just love the idea of fresh beginnings and new starts and having a fresh vision for my life. And I think it's important to have that mentality. I think it's important to have vision and be ready to turn the page, so to speak. But I think it's equally important to look behind, at least just a little bit, like to reflect back on the year and just look at everything that transpired. Maybe some things that God has done in your life, maybe the good, maybe the not so good. As some of you look back on the year, maybe you can look back and say, like, man, 2024 was a good year. Like, 2024 was good to me. Maybe you still got some notes in your phone where you had some like New Year's resolutions or some goals or vision for your life. And maybe you can go back to those New Year's resolutions or goals and be like, man, I achieved that and I achieved this. And maybe some of you wanted to start taking your health a little bit more seriously. And maybe you can check that off the list that you really did do that. Maybe some of you wanted to repair some fractured or broken relationships in your family. And maybe you were able to do that. Maybe you wanted to save a certain amount of money and you were able to do that. Like, you just look back on your life and you're like, man, 2024 was great. For some of us, maybe if you were to truly be honest with yourself, you look back on the year and maybe you cannot say that. Like, maybe 2024 was not the best year. Maybe 2024 was met with some grief and maybe some heartache or some pain, or just simply like you are not where you thought you would be by the end of the year. And you look back on your life and maybe just over the past year, you kind of can look and just be honest and evaluate and just say, like, there have been times where I just felt like caving in. I felt like throwing in the towel. I felt like giving up. And over the past few weeks, there's a story that I really have not been able to shake. I haven't been able to get out of my mind. And I've just kind of been ruminating on this story of a man by the name of Peter Jenkins. I'm sure none of you have heard this man before, but Peter Jenkins wrote a book back in 1973 called A Walk Across America. A Walk Across America. And this book was amazing. It actually ended up becoming a bestseller because really all this book was Peter Jenkins just he chronicled like his journey, like from one point of the country all the way to the next point of the country. And guys, I'm just going to tell you, like, there was some crazy things that happened to Peter Jenkins as he was walking from one side of the country to the next. And this book is just full of things that happen. And I want to give you, not all of them, but let me just give you a few things that he puts in his book that he encountered from walking from one part of the country to the next. This is what he said. He said, I walked 5,000 miles. Like, I want y'all to grasp that. Like, it's hard for me to go in my neighborhood and just walk a mile. Come on, y'all. Y'all know what I'm talking about? That needs to be part of my New Year's resolution. Like, I need to get out and walk or exercise, go to the gym, something. But listen, he walked 5,000 miles. It took him 5 years. He walked through blizzards, walked through 120 degrees in the desert. He was attacked by animals. He was bitten by snakes. Come on, y'all. Like, that's where I draw the line right there. Like, if I got bit by a snake, listen, snakes are, it's a no for me, y'all. Like, I'm calling help. Listen, he kept on going. Got bit by a snake. Listen, he was hit by a car. His dog got ran over by a car. Like, I ain't laughing. Like, that's where some of y'all would have like been like, nah, I'm done. Like, y'all would have drawn the line there. Listen, he was mugged. All of these things happened to Peter Jenkins as he's walking from one side of the country to the next. But here's the crazy part. Like, after he got done, after the journey was over, somebody came up to him and they said, hey, with all of these things that happened to you, tell me, what was the thing that made you come closest to giving up? He said, you're not going to believe me. They said, no, seriously. Like, we want to know. Like, what was the thing that made you come closest to giving up? He said, you really want to know? He said, it was sand in my shoes. Sand in his shoes. And he went on to give the account. He said, like, there were places that he would walk where small granules of sand would get under his foot in his shoes. And he said, I know it sounds meaningless and nobody else could see it, but it would grind at my feet to a point where I felt like I couldn't continue to walk. He's like, I don't know that I can keep putting one foot in front of the other. And he would have to take a break, and he would have to reset himself and sit down and take his shoes off, dump his shoes out, put them back on, and continue for the rest of the journey. And I think with that in mind and where I want to go today, I just think it's worth asking this one question. How many of us have accumulated sand in our shoes in 2024? Like, how many of us, I'm not talking about literal sand, I'm talking about things that happen to you that maybe you have found yourself saying, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Like, I don't know if I can put one foot in front of the other. And here's the good news. If any of you here today are saying, that's me. Listen, it don't make you a bad person, but it could be a notification that you need to press reset. In fact, I want to talk along those lines just for the next few moments. If you're taking notes, just write this at the top. It's time to reset. It's time to reset. I think all throughout the Bible, we can find God or find Jesus in the Gospels looking for opportunities to reset some people. I think one of the most subtle examples of this, but yet maybe one of the most profound examples of this, is this one small interaction that Jesus has with a woman named Martha. It's a little bit of a peculiar text. It's just 5 verses, and none of the other writers in the Gospels find it worthy enough to put into their book. Only Luke thinks this is important enough to talk about. I want to read it to you for just a moment. Luke 10, 38 through 42, it says this. Now, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. Essentially, what happened is Martha got a text from somebody and said, hey, Jesus is coming over. And Martha was like, okay, like, I need to get some things ready. And so she opened her home to Jesus. And now the story goes on. Luke is describing the story. And he said, now Martha had a sister, and her name was Mary. And Mary would just sit at the Lord's feet, just listening to Jesus teach. But Martha was distracted. It's an important word. Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and she asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. I want to pause for just a moment right here as I'm reading this story and just acknowledge the fact that all of us have a Mary in our family. Like, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, we all have that one family member that'll come over and hang out and eat and want to party, but when it's time to clean up, they just mysteriously disappear. Y'all know what I'm saying? Like some of y'all ain't raising your hand. Y'all just acting like y'all got a picture perfect family. Come on, y'all had Mary over for Christmas this past week. Like you cleaning the dishes, like you getting everything straightened back up. And that one family member's like, I'm out of here, and that's what Mary's doing. Like, at least in Martha's eyes, it's like Martha is so frustrated. She's like, can you tell her to get into the kitchen and at least just help like a little bit? Watch what Jesus says. He says, Martha, Martha. Like, you're in trouble by Jesus when he has to call your name twice. I have a 3-year-old, Maverick, and I do that a lot. I'm like, Maverick. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just in that phase where he's testing me. And it looks like Martha's in trouble, but what if I told you she's not? Only 15 times in the entire Bible do you find where God or Jesus calls somebody's name by repetition. Says their name more than once. Every single time all throughout the Bible, when God does this or Jesus does this, it's always a sign of endearment. It's actually Jesus' heart being bent towards that person, or God's heart being bent towards that person. So we read this almost like Martha, Martha, but I think it's a little bit more like Jesus putting his hand on her shoulder and saying, Martha, Martha. What I think I'm saying is it's not a rebuke, it's just a reset. Like, she's so distracted. And watch what Jesus says. He says, you're worried, you're upset about so many things. But few things are needed. In fact, not even a few things, just one thing. One thing is needed. And Mary has chosen what's best. And it will not be taken from her. Let's pray. Father, I thank you so much. Lord, I thank you for your word. I thank you that your word is life and it's light. So God, I pray for the next few moments, you would allow your word to illuminate our path, reset us as we get ready to walk into this new year. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to talk along these lines just for a couple moments, the thought of resets. I think all of us would agree that resets are important, right? In all facets of our life. But I think we also could agree that resets can tend to be a little inconvenient as well. As I was thinking about this message, my mind went back to me being a little kid. And I went to my first video game that I had ever had. It was Super Mario. Come on, anybody know anything about Super Mario? Yeah. I had Super Mario for Super Nintendo. Like, that was the game console, was Super Nintendo. And like, kids nowadays, they don't know how good they got it, y'all. Like, obviously the graphics are way better, and you got controllers that, like, you just put batteries in them or whatever. And like, you can be as far away from the console. Like, back in the day, like, we had to plug our controller in. We could only get so far from the TV. And the thing about Super Nintendo, like, you'd be playing Mario, and it would just freeze. Some of y'all, like, not all of y'all, but some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know where I'm going with this, because like, you would have to walk up to the Super Nintendo and you would have to take the video game out. And you would take it, and every kid thought they were like they knew how to fix the problem, right? You already know what I'm about to do. Like, you would get the video game and you would just go, and you thought it fixed everything. I'm still not convinced that did anything, by the way. It wasn't like in 1995, I could hop on YouTube and be like, how do I get my video game to start? Like we didn't have YouTube back then. We just figured things out. And so we would take the video game and then I'd put it back in. And there was times it still wouldn't work. And then, I don't know if anybody else did this, but like, I'd go in the bathroom, I'd grab a Q-tip and I'd just start cleaning that bad boy out. And I would do whatever I could to try to get the video game to work, and I'd put it back in. But as I think about Super Nintendo, there was just three buttons on the console. There was a power button, an eject button, and a reset button. Now, here's the thing about reset. You couldn't reset from the controller. Like, you literally had to get up off the couch or off the ground or off the bed or whatever, and you walked up to it and you literally, and you just had to press reset. It was so inconvenient. But it was what was necessary. You wanna know what else is inconvenient? Has anybody ever tried to reset your iPhone in the middle of the day? Now, for those of you without iPhones, you're just gonna have to trust what I say here, and we are gonna pray for you, by the way. Come on over to our side. But have you ever tried to reset your phone in the middle of the day? It's so inconvenient, especially if you're busy. I think Apple actually, they know that it's inconvenient. Because what they'll do is they'll actually give you a notification in your settings app, and they'll be like, hey, probably time to reset. Because in order for this thing to operate at its fullest capacity, it must be reset from time to time. And they'll give you a notification in your settings app, and they'll be like, you probably need to press reset. We need to shut this thing down for a little bit. But then they'll give you options. They'll say, you could do it right now. But if you do it right now, we're gonna have to shut the phone off. You might as well just put it down somewhere and come back to it at a later time. Or you could do, and this is what I always do, or you can wait till 2:00 in the morning when you're already asleep, and we'll just do the resetting for you, and we'll get everything where it needs to be, where your phone is functioning with all the latest updates and all of those things. Really, you know what Apple is saying? They're preaching. They don't even know it. Because you know what Apple is really saying? Is they're saying, if we're going to reset it, you're going to have to relinquish control at some point. What if I told you that God would tell us the same thing? Like, if you want to reset going into 2025, at some point, you're going to have to take your hands off of it. Like, Apple can't be doing their thing and I be doing my thing at the same time. God can't be doing his thing in me and me trying to do my thing at the same time. Another profound truth that I've found that Apple has helped me get this word to you, all right, is this, that anytime a reset is required, it's always because an update is available. So we find that Jesus is resetting Martha, but that only tells us half the story, because he's resetting her because he has an upgrade for her. And so for the next few moments, let me just give you a couple notifications, if you will, that we see pop up in Martha's life that lets her know she needs a reset. And if we're truthful about it, maybe we have the same notifications that are popping up in our life before we head into this new year. Now, this story, let me just set the stage for just a moment, because this story, it's an interesting one, because it's a dichotomy between two sisters. It's a contrast between two different sets of priorities. And I think it's easy to listen to me read this story, and automatically in your mind, you're kind of separating the two, and you're probably like, hey, I'm Mary or I'm Martha, and you're identifying to one of them. And I think it's easy for us to look at Martha and be like, she's got it wrong. Like, she's the villain of the story, and Mary is the hero. She's the one sitting at Jesus' feet. She's the hero. Martha's distracted. She's the villain. But can I just tell you, like, I think to view the story that way would be to view it inaccurately. Because if I could be honest with you, I think every last one of us are Martha. I want to prove it to you. I need y'all to participate with me for just a moment. Let me give you a hypothetical situation. Let's say right now, somebody texts you. Like, as I'm talking to you right now, think of the person that you trust the most, and they give you a text. Like, they shoot you a text right now, and you look down at your phone, and in that text, all it says is, hey, Jesus is coming over today. Like, that's all you get. And they're like, Jesus is coming over to my house. I want to predict exactly what would happen. All of you right now, you would read your phone and you'd be like, what in the world's going on? And you would stand up and you would politely, put your hand up, and have to walk down your aisle. You would act like nothing's going on. You would get outside and you would run. And you would go grocery shopping, and you would go shopping where shopping is a pleasure. Y'all know what I'm saying? And you would go find the ingredients to the best meal that you know how to cook. Like, you wouldn't be trying a new recipe out. This ain't the time for that. Like, I'm going to try something that I know that I make good. Or if you're like me and you don't know how to cook, like you catering something in. You getting somebody to cook something for you. Like, you setting the stage. You getting in the family group chat and you be like, y'all better get home now. Y'all better clean the house. Like, clean it up, clean it all up. Like, and there's a difference between like just kind of simple straightening up and deep cleaning. Like, my mom taught me like how to deep clean. Like, you would tell all your kids, you better start deep cleaning the house. Like, you scrubbing the baseboards. Like, there ain't gonna be no dust in the house. Like, you're gonna make sure that everything looks good. You're gonna hire somebody really quickly to come and mow the grass really quick. You're gonna act like, man, everything is gonna be picture perfect. You're gonna line the kids up. You're gonna have a family meeting right before Jesus shows up, and you're gonna be like, you better be on your best behavior. Like you're gonna have like everything perfect. That's what Martha was doing. That's all Martha was doing. She was just trying to get everything perfect before Jesus came. And the things that she did were not wrong in and of themselves, but here's the problem. She allowed all those things to become a distraction. In fact, that's the first point I want to give you. I want you to put this down. The first notification that we see pop up in her life is this, the notification of distraction. The notification of distraction. Verse 40 says exactly that. It says that Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. The word distracted here, like in the original language that the Bible was written, actually gives us, it's a very descriptive word. It actually means to be pulled away or to be dragged away. And I don't want to give too many details here, but I actually found this out as I was studying this, that there was a form of torture in the Middle Ages where they would actually take somebody and they would tie all four of their limbs to four different horses, and they would allow the horses to go their separate ways. And the French actually called this form of torture distraction because somebody's body was literally being distracted, pulled in every which way. How many of you have ever felt like you've lived your life like that? Just being pulled in every which direction. That's what's happening to Martha here. She's being pulled, even though it's by good things, she's still being pulled, and she's finding herself distracted. And I know from my life, I can't necessarily speak for anybody else, but I'll speak for me. Here's what I have found out, that if the enemy can't get me to be a Judas, he'll be content with me being a Martha. Like if he can't get me to deny Jesus, he will be content with me just being distracted from Jesus. Psychologists have actually labeled an epidemic that is just sweeping our society today. And here's what they're calling it: hurry sickness. Here's what they say. I want you to listen to this. As a society, we're always on the go, always rushed, constantly feeling like we don't have enough time. Our lives feel chaotic and we're always under pressure. Psychologists call it hurry sickness. I call it the notification of distraction. John Mark Comer wrote a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And in this book, he actually lists out different symptoms that show themselves in the life of somebody who lives distracted. Here's a few things that he mentioned in his book. If you're living a distracted life, maybe you're dealing with some of these things. Number one, irritability. Like you feel like you're always getting mad or annoyed or frustrated. Everything feels like an inconvenience. Restlessness. You finally lay down to rest, but you can't relax and you're tossing and you're turning with anxiety. Workaholism. Not just with our jobs, but with nonstop activity in general. We don't know when to stop. We never have enough accomplishment, never have enough accumulation. What about this one? Out of order priorities. We feel disconnected from our identity and our calling. Our life is reactive and not proactive. We're busier than ever, yet we still feel like we don't have enough time for what really matters to us. We have room enough for God in our hearts, but not in our schedules. Escapist behaviors. When we're too tired to actually do what's life-giving for our souls, we turn to our distraction of choice. The things that are truly life-giving for our souls are the first to go instead of our first go-to. If any of these relate to you, there might be a notification that you need a reset. Martha is teaching us a couple things here. Let me just give them to you really quickly. The first thing we see here is that distracted hearts can quickly become distant hearts. Distracted hearts can become distant hearts. Jesus would settle in the living room, but she would work in the kitchen. Same house, different rooms. Distance was between them because she was distracted. But not only can distracted hearts become distant hearts eventually become resentful hearts. Finally, she makes her way into the living room and she talks to Jesus. And instead of saying, "Hey, I'm so glad you're here, Jesus," she immediately starts talking about her sister and comparing her life to her sister. She's like, Jesus, don't you see that I'm doing all the work and she's not doing any of the work? Won't you tell her to start helping me a little bit? Listen to me. Here's when I know that Dusty is living a distracted life, when I start comparing myself to everybody else. Like, I think the greatest sin is comparison. Like, I can tell when my heart gets a little sideways when I start looking at that guy and I'm like, he's a better husband than me. He's a better dad than me. He's a better pastor. He's a better preacher. He's a better friend. He's a better this. He's a better that. And I can always tell when I have a distracted heart because I start comparing. Instead of looking at Jesus, I'm looking at my brothers and my sisters. There's a story that I recently heard of a sharpshooter in the Olympics. And he was so good, as the story tells us, that this sharpshooter in the Olympics was so good. He was really head and shoulders above all of his competition. And he was just flying through the competition from one round to the next. And he finally gets to the final round. And he pretty much had the win. He kind of had it all tied up. I mean, it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to win. And really all he had to do in the final round is he had to shoot anywhere on the target. He didn't even have to hit the bullseye, just anywhere on the target, and he would have went home with the trophy. And so the sharpshooter, he got lined up and got his gun ready, and he squinted one eye, and he was looking, and he had the bullseye. He's like, I know I just need to hit the target, but I don't want to just hit the target. I want to hit the bullseye one final time. And he had his eye on the bullseye, and he was looking, and he took one big breath and exhaled, and he shot. And right when he shot, the bullet went right through the bullseye. And a smile was on his face. He's like, I want it. And as he looked around, all he heard was a huge gasp with the entire crowd. And he's looking around at the crowd and he's confused. And now his smile is a little bit of a face of bewilderment. And he's like, what's going on? And the more he looked, he realized he hit the bullseye, but he was aiming at the wrong target. Here's what I want you to understand. A distracted life will have you hitting the bullseye on targets you should have never been aiming at. And that's what's happened to Martha in this story. Like, she hit the bullseye. Like, I bet her mac and cheese was phenomenal. Y'all know what I'm saying? Like, I know her house smelled good. Like, I know there wasn't one speck of dust anywhere. Like, I bet her yard looked great. She probably won yard of the month that month. Y'all know what I'm saying? Like, she got to put the sign in her yard. And I don't know that they really did that in Jerusalem back then, but y'all get the point. Like, everything was great and she hit the bullseye, but she was aiming at the wrong target. Jesus was the target and she was distracted. The first notification that pops up is the notification of distraction. Here's the second one that I think we see here in the story, the notification of exhaustion. You know you need a reset when you just feel exhausted. The story doesn't say this explicitly, that she is exhausted, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to read this and understand that she is working herself to the bone. I picture the story where Jesus is sitting in the living room and Martha is working and she's in the kitchen and she's got sweat coming down her face and her hair's up in a bun. You know what I'm saying? Like she's got the messy hair, don't care vibes going on completely. And she's just like she's balancing everything and she's trying to cook and she's trying to do this and trying to be a good host. And she's got all of these things going on and now she's exhausted. She's tired. She's on empty. And I think all throughout the Gospels, different places throughout the Gospels, Luke talks about it in Luke 10. John talks about it in John 11. There's 3 different times where we read about Martha, this same woman. And can I just tell you, 2 out of the 3 times we find that she's tired. John chapter 11, we see that Mary and Martha, they had a brother, his name was Lazarus, and Lazarus died. Their brother died. And Martha is calling out to Jesus, be like, Jesus, if you could just get here, like you can fix everything. Like you can resurrect him. You can do a miracle. And Jesus, you know what he does? He just waits. He actually waits 4 days and he finally arrives on the scene. And Martha's so frustrated. She's like, Jesus, I believe in you. Like, I just needed you to show up. And I have to wait day after day after day. 4 days I have to wait for you to finally show up. And you know what? You know what was happening? She was tired of waiting. But in Luke chapter 10, she's tired of working. She's just always tired. Anybody know somebody like that? You just always tired? Maybe it's you. Maybe you just always tired. I actually feel bad. I feel bad for Martha. Like somebody just needs to get my sister a Celsius. You know what I'm saying? Like get her a 5-hour energy drink. Like get her something. Like she's just always tired. She's living her life like we treat our cars. She's only filling up when it's absolutely necessary. How many of you treat your car like that? Like you, actually, scratch that. Don't answer that right now. We're about to do a survey. I need y'all to help me. With something. And I need you to raise your hand if this applies to you. When do you find it necessary to fill your car up with gas? We're all family, so come on. Like we ain't gonna judge nobody. How many of you, when you get to a half a tank, you're filling up with gas? Keep your hand up. You should be proud of that, by the way. That's all the mature people in the room. Come on, y'all take a look around. That's all the mature people in the room. I can't raise my hand to that, by the way. Y'all can put your hands down. They proud of it. Hey, how about when you get to a quarter of a tank, you're like, I probably need to find a gas station. Come on, anybody? What about when you get to empty, you're like, yeah, it's probably about that time. Now, here's the real question. How many of you are like me and you're faith drivers and you know your car better than your car knows itself? Yeah, come on. Yeah. Like when it gets on E, you're like, nah, I know exactly how many miles I got left. Nah, it ain't time to stop. That actually happened to me this week on Christmas Day. We've got these traditions. I've got 3 boys now, and we've started our traditions on Christmas. And we wake up, and my wife always makes breakfast, and we read the Christmas story and read about Jesus. And we want our kids to understand. You know, we got all these traditions, and then they open up their gifts, and so we're just spending time together. But later on in the day, we were going to my mom's. And some other family was going to meet us there. And time kind of got away from us. And by the time all the gifts were open and all these other things, like it was time to leave. And now we're finding ourselves a little, just a little stressed. We're like, man, like we're running late. We had to drive a good little ways to get to my mom's. And we got 3 kids. And if anybody's got at least 3 kids, y'all know how difficult it is. We just went from 2 kids to 3 kids this year. And that jump was crazy. All right. And so like we're stressed. And we're it's Christmas and I love Christmas, but we're stressed just a little. And we're like, let's just get the kids in the car. Let's go. And right before we get in the car, my wife just drops a bomb on me. She's like, hey, by the way, like we're empty on gas. We got to go to a gas station. I'm like, all right, let's get the kids ready and get in the car. And we get in the car and I crank it up and it's on E. But I see we got 55 miles left. I'm like, no, we good. And I just drive a good little ways. We get to my mom's, spend Christmas at my mom's house with family. By the time we get in the car, ready to come home, it's dark. And I'm like, man, I never got gas. And I get in the car and it said we got 30-something miles left. And I'm like, no, we good. We good. We drive all the way home. We good. I get in the car the next morning, crank it up, 12 miles empty. I'm like, we good. I'm just kidding. I went straight to a gas station. Okay. My wife was going to kill me. Went straight to a gas station, filled up. I think I get that tendency, though, from my mom, because growing up, I felt like every time I got in my mom's car, it was just always on empty. And as a kid, 10, 11, 12 years old, 13 years old, I didn't want my mom having to get out and pump the gas. And so I'd always get out and be like, Mom, how much do you want me to put in the gas tank? And she's like, without fail, this is what she always said, just put $10 in it, baby. I put $10 in it and we'd go down the road. And, $10 got you further back then than it does now, but it still didn't get you very far. And so later on in the week, we're on empty again. And she would say, just put $10 in it, baby. Can I just be honest with you for just a moment? Let me just be super vulnerable with you. I've caught myself at times living my life just like that. $10 here, $10 there. 12 miles empty? Nah, I'm good. Every single time it catches up to me. Every time I get on empty, it catches up to me. That's why I love that Jesus says this. He says, come to me, all who are weary, all who are tired, all who are on empty. Like the E, that light is going off in your life. And Jesus is like, come on. You're on empty? I got you. I love what Jesus says. But more than I love what he says, I love what he doesn't say. Notice that Jesus does not say, come to me, all who are killing it, all who are crushing it, all who are living life to the fullest, all you good moms, like you feel like you're being a great mom, you can come to me. If you're doing a great dad, if you're doing a great job on the job, like you're getting promotions, like come on. No. Jesus says, all who are weary and empty, exhausted, come to me. As I was thinking about this, I'm about to close, but as I was thinking about this, my mind went back to being just a little boy. And it was a Sunday. It was just like this. It was actually right around this time of the year. And we went to church, went and got lunch after church. And this particular Sunday, it was just me and my mom. I was riding in the passenger seat. My mom was driving, and we were headed down the interstate, and we were headed back home. And as we were on the interstate, my mom got a phone call. It was a frantic phone call. And on the other line, it was just somebody just crying. And all they really said was, y'all got to hurry and get to Papa's house. Papa has fallen off the roof. Papa was my dad's dad. And my Papa was a contractor, but he was retired by that point. But he was building a detached garage on his property. And he was up on the roof trying to finish up a few things, and he slipped off the roof. Even in his old age, he slipped off the roof, fell off the roof, ended up breaking his neck and his back in 7 places. He actually broke the bone that they call the hangman's break, which is actually the bone that breaks when someone hangs themselves. And so to say that this was an emergency would be an understatement. And so my mom gets that call, and here I am, just a little kid, and I'm just like, what in the world's going on? We have no other details than that. And so my mom she starts flooring it down the interstate. And man, we are trying to get to his house as quick as possible because we have no other details. We don't know what's going on. And man, we're trying to get there. And right when we get close to the exit, y'all can probably guess what happened. The car starts sputtering. We look over and we're on empty, and we're like, man, can we just get to the exit? Like, we could see the exit right in front of us. And can we just get to the exit? We try. And eventually my mom's just got to veer over and get off the side of the interstate. Right there at the exit, feeling helpless because we're on empty. Here's what I want you to ask yourself. Is there anybody right here at the exit of 2024? Like, you can see the exit ramp in view. It's just a few days away. You're feeling helpless because you're exhausted. Like, you don't have any fuel in the tank. You're like, I don't know if I can make it. That's what Martha was dealing with. Distraction and exhaustion. But I told you at the beginning that anytime a reset is required, it's always because an upgrade is available. And so Jesus resets her, gets her focus, and here's the upgrade he gives her: a new motivation. I want you to write that down. A new motivation. Jesus has to actually stop her from her busyness, and he says her name twice, and he kind of puts his hand on her shoulder. That's how I picture it. And he just looks at her, and this is what he says. We see it right here in verse 41. Martha, Martha, you're worried, you're upset about so many things, but only one thing is needed. What was that one thing? Jesus. Like, that's all. Like, I'm so thankful, Martha. Thank you for doing all of this, and that's great. But Mary has chosen what's better, and it will not be taken away from her. What Jesus really is doing is he's basically just saying, Martha, I love you, but your motives are off. You got the wrong motivation. He was giving her a reset in her mindset. And really, that's the formula. Anytime that God presses reset on our life, that's what he's going to do. He's going to reset your mindset. Isaiah 43 puts it like this. It says, forget the former things. Like, don't dwell on the past anymore. Forget the things of 2024. See, I'm doing a new thing. Really what God is saying, he's talking to Isaiah and he's talking about Israel. And he's like, I want you to tell Israel, like, I'm ready to press reset, but I need you to get a new mindset. So here's how I want to say it. If it's God's job to do the resetting, then it must be our job to do the forgetting. Like, if God wants to press the reset button on our life, then we're going to have to forget some things. And you know what forget means? It actually does not mean, if you really study it, it actually does not mean to no longer remember. It's not like some like spiritual amnesia where you don't remember anymore. That's not what he's saying. Really what he's saying is just quit talking about it. Like, quit being so fixated on it. And so here's what I want to do. I want to give you a New Year's resolution. Some of you, maybe you've already started your New Year's resolutions. Maybe you've got a list on your phone and you've listed out some things like, this is what I want to do. I want to be better in this and this and this. And maybe you've got on there like you want to take your health more seriously, like I talked about earlier, or maybe you want that promotion or a car or whatever. Like, you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to get that, whatever that might be. And all those things are fine. Maybe some of you on your New Year's resolutions, you're like, I'm going to come to 21 days of fasting and prayer. And if you don't have that on your New Year's resolution, I would encourage you to put that on your New Year's resolutions. But here's what I want to give you ahead of all of that, because this is the most important. This is what I want your mantra. This is what I want you to live by in 2025. I want you to put down in your phone at the top of the list, in 2025, I'm going to quit asking my past for permission to walk into my future. That's the challenge. In 2025, I'm going to quit asking my past for permission to walk into all that God has for me. And so, can I just encourage you, right here with just a few days left before we go into 2025, get a new motivation. You can trade your distraction, you can trade your exhaustion, you can trade all of those things in for a new mindset, for a new motivation. Make room for all of the new that God wants to bring to you. So maybe, just maybe, some of you are like Peter Jenkins and you need to press stop on the journey. You need to take a seat and you need to press reset. You need to take your shoes off, dump the sand out, put your shoes back on, and get ready for the journey, because God has something special for you in 2025. Can I pray for you? Father, we thank you so much. Lord, that you're patient with us. Lord, just like you were with Martha. Lord, that you can take our distraction, you can take our exhaustion, you can take all of the efforts and the things, maybe even though they're good, God, that are taking our eyes off of you. And God, you can reset our focus, and we just pray that you do that right now. But maybe there's some people that are in the room that the reset they need is a spiritual reset, that they need to give their life to you. They need to say yes to you. That in 2025, Jesus, I'm going to give you a chance to be the Lord of my life. Maybe there's some people in the room that just need the instruction, Jesus, that you gave to Martha, that Mary has chosen the best thing, and that's Jesus. Lord, if there's anybody in this room that needs to choose you, that's not living for you, God, may they say yes to you and walk into the fullness that you have for them in 2025. In Jesus' name, amen.